This marks this month the 10-year anniversary of the flash crash, which saw $1 trillion wiped off U.S. stock markets in less than a half an hour and made me lose my hair. The markets recovered, but for years afterwards, nobody was sure exactly what had happened. Glitches, high-frequency traders, and old-fashioned fat fingers were initially blamed. Then, in 2015, a London-based point-and-click trader, Sarao, was arrested for market manipulation. But the question was, how did a single man trading financial markets from his bedroom in his parents' basement cause such a massive and abrupt crash? Bloomberg's financial investigations reporter Vaughan has made the so-called Hound of Hounslow the subject of his book, Flash Crash, and it's out tomorrow. It's also being turned into a film with Slumdog Millionaire actor Dev Patel playing Sarao. So, Liam, first of all, tell me, what do we know about how this really happened? How much is myth and how much is real?
Without wanting to give the ending of the book away, the flash crash was this kind of very dramatic, very mysterious event in 2010. In which the bottom just miraculously sort of fell out of the market. It was already a highly volatile day. We're in the midst of the Eurozone crisis, and suddenly the markets around the world started sort of plummeting like a runaway elevator. And originally there was an investigation by the US authorities, and they kind of settled on various explanations, including the rise of high-frequency trading and some other kind of big trades that were placed by pension funds. And then fast forward 5 years, and the FBI knock on a guy's door, a very modest house in Hounslow, underneath the flight path of Heathrow, and arrest a guy called Sarao, who's now, achieved almost mythical status. Sarao was, despite his kind of very humble location and the way that he lived his life, was actually a huge trader. For 5 years, he was amongst the leading traders on the E-mini S&P 500, which is one of the biggest futures markets in the world, and he was trading bigger size than Goldman Sachs and bigger than most hedge funds. So don't think that just because he was trading in his bedroom, he wasn't, trading significant size. That said, the idea that he, single-handedly could have had a major effect on the markets that day is really a matter of dispute, and I get into that in the book.
And it's really interesting, isn't it, with so many people possibly watching this trading in their bedrooms or at least in their homes, Liam, the strange times we find ourselves in. Tell me a bit about how Nav, as he's known, how he managed to escape jail time, essentially. He proved incredibly useful to the US authorities.
Yeah, So Nav was arrested in 2015, and at that point in time, he was charged with 22 criminal counts by the U.S. Department of Justice, felony counts. So, the cumulative prison sentence for that is 380 years. When they knocked on his door, all they really knew about him is that he was worth $70 million, that he'd set up various offshore vehicles and bank accounts, and that he was, in his kind of interactions with the exchange, sometimes quite aggressive. So they didn't really know what to expect. And then they knock on the door and, go up to his bedroom, and it's literally a single bed with a tiger stuffed toy on it and a load of computer games and paraphernalia. And so what eventually happens is that they get to know Nav, and firstly, they realise just how incredibly gifted he is. And at that point in time, the US authorities sort of real knowledge and understanding of, the dark arts of electronic markets was pretty rudimentary. And so Nav was able to sit there. And amazingly, one of the sort of nuggets in the book is that Nav felt like the markets were being rigged and being cheated by HFT firms. So he started videoing himself trading, if you can believe that. So when they arrested him, they found this camcorder, and on it is all this footage of him basically breaking the law. So it didn't help his legal case, but it meant that he had hours and hours of footage, which he then sat down with the FBI and talked through, how the markets work and what he was doing and what other people were doing, which proved incredibly helpful. And off the back of that, they built, dozens of other spoofing cases.
But the the bottom line, Liam, is that he's somewhat of a savant, right? He's at very least, a genius. I wonder what he's doing now. Is this guy making bank, or is he just wasting everybody on a Call of Duty Twitch stream?
Well, one of the tragic elements of the story is that because Nav never wanted to tell his family and friends about the money, instead what he did is he sort of entrusted it to a series of so-called investment advisors who essentially, promised him that they could give him guaranteed returns of like 11% a year. Ultimately, he gets arrested, needs to make bail. He's on paper worth tens of millions of dollars, but his bail set at £5 million, so it should be easy for him. The lawyers quickly find out that they can't get hold of the money. So unfortunately, even though Nav made all this money, he was ultimately taken for a ride, and that's kind of one of the big twists. One of the big elements of the story is that this so-called genius criminal mastermind was himself a victim of sort of Ponzi schemers. So at the moment, he's completely broke and isn't actually allowed to trade. He's still under house arrest. That expires in January. But I spoke to various HFT firms and big hedge funds, and they all said that they would hire him in a flash. So maybe he's got a career on Wall Street after all.